Hi, I'm Adam Abraham. I've had the distinct honor and privilege of being a contributing writer in Science to Sage magazine, a thematic publication published by Karen Elkins, and the title is Water Solutions for a Water Planet. It's a tremendous amount of information there, many solutions. Some you may have heard of, some you have not. And it is a time, a place perhaps to consider or to wonder maybe why a lot of these options have not been taken before, or not well known, or not part of the general discussion in terms of solutions we have with water, with the quality of water, with drought, and other things. But in my particular piece, I made a reference to Walter Russell, a man who was born in 1871 and he passed in 1963. And he had a very profound impact, and yet you don't hear too much about him today in terms in general thought, but he made amazing contributions to human understanding, and yet for some reason a lot of his theories or his positions have not been adopted. So in my piece I refer to an open letter, and that open letter is in one of Walter Russell's books, which is this right here. It's called A New Concept of the Universe. And I thought this would be a good place, good opportunity to read that letter, because it's actually as pertinent today as it was when it was first written in 1953. An open letter to the world of science. Gentlemen and ladies, this open letter to the world of science, accompanied by a treatise on the Russell cosmogony, is being sent to approximately 350 members of our National Academy of Science and Royal Society of London, 100 universities, and 300 leading newspapers. This announcement, with its new concept of light, matter, energy, electricity, and magnetism, is a simple yet complete, consistent, and workable cosmogony which will enable future scientists to visualize the universe as one whole, W-H-O-L-E, and will open the door to the new age of transmutation. Recalling the important contributions I have already made to science, such as my work in completing the hydrogen octave and my prior discovery of the existence of the two atom bomb elements given to the scientific world in my 2 periodic tables of the elements assures me that you will give serious thought and attention to these documents. Present threatening world conditions make it imperative that science discloses the way whereby the weakest of nations can protect itself from the strongest of them and render attack by land, sea, and air impotent. This new knowledge, meaning this book right here, the information that's contained in this book, will give science this power. England could have been rendered immune from her devastating bombardment had the world been receptive to these new scientific discoveries which I endeavored to give to it when World War II started. He's brilliant but still naive. Science, however, did make use of the 2 atom bomb elements mentioned above. See, I'll read this again with different emphasis. Science, however, did make use of the 2 atom bomb elements mentioned above, which I charted and copyrighted in 1926. In other words, they used what they wanted to use and they dismissed what they wanted to dismiss. The world needs new metals. Many new rustless metals of greater density, malleability, and conductivity await division in vast quantities from carbon and silicon. These will be found when science discards its concept of matter as being substance and becomes aware of the gyroscopic control of motion, which will split the carbon tone into isotopes as a musical tone is split into sharps and flats. In the chemical elements, the sharps and flats are isotopes. These can be produced by man in greater numbers than nature has produced them, for nature does not begin to split her tones until she has passed 2 octaves beyond carbon. There is a tremendous opportunity for the metallurgists of tomorrow to create new metals in the carbon and silicon octaves. This is from someone whose discovery of plutonium and another element predated sciences by some decades. Of even greater importance to the world in this crucial period is the production of unlimited quantities of free hydrogen. This ideal weightless fuel could be transmuted from the atmosphere while in transit without the necessity of storage capacity. These are the important things that might now be known if Kepler's discovery had divulged the facts of geometric symmetry and dual curvature within the wave field. His law of elliptical orbits evidences that he was on the verge of discovering that 4, not 2, magnetic poles control the dual opposed balance of this 2-way universe. With but 2 magnetic poles, a 3-dimensional radial universe of time intervals and sequences would be impossible. A balanced universe must have 2 poles to control centripetal, generative force, and 2 compensating poles to control centrifugal, radioactive force. By means of such knowledge, science could rid the earth of fear of attack by any nation, no matter how the attack might come, whether by land, sea, or air. I have to comment here that it's not science per se. Science already gives us the ability to have that freedom. What's important is people, is scientists. And the fact, and whether scientists are whoring themselves out, that's the issue. Such as having billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on a big hole in the ground called a Hadron Collider. That would be science whoring itself out. And it's not about giving us the kind of freedom from the fears that Mr. Russell is speaking of. It's a choice, and each must make. And even while I mentioned the Hadron Collider, just a little tidbit of information that's in this letter here, this open letter to science, about the 4 poles, 2 sets of poles, one being generoactive, polarizing, the other being radioactive, the one being centripetal, that's the polar, the polarizing, one being radioactive, being centrifugal, and it's about in bringing things apart. It gives you more pause to reflect on that Hadron Collider that they're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars for to destroy something. But in addition, that's centrifugal, that's radiative, that is disintegrating force that's unbalanced. Just something to think about. From a non-scientist, okay? This new knowledge will give to science the cause of all the effects which have for centuries of research deceived the senses of scientific observers. Man has a mind as well as having senses, but he has given preference to the evidence of his senses in the building of his cosmogony. Man can reason with his senses, but he cannot know with them. Reasoning is sense thinking, not mind knowing. He has also produced effects without knowing their cause. The senses have not revealed to man that this is a substanceless universe of motion only. Neither have they told him the principle of polarity, which divides the universal equilibrium into pairs of oppositely conditioned mates to create a sex-divided electric two-way universe. The time has come in the history of man when knowledge alone can save the human race. Man has for too long left the Creator out of his creation, thinking he cannot be proven in the laboratory. God not only can be proven in the laboratory, but because of the facts of that proof, man can solve many heretofore hidden mysteries of the universe, such as that of the seed and growth. Of course, Monsanto would try to patent it and claim ownership. Life and death cycles, the purpose of the inert gases as electric recorders of all repetitive effects, and the true process of atomic structure. Although this was many years before today, in fact many decades, he's saying a large Hadron Collider and billions of dollars is not really necessary to find God. Isn't that interesting? Or to prove God, for that matter. And I don't know about you, but with no discernible value or benefit, comprehensible benefit to humanity, does this not fit all criteria of a false idol? You might reasonably ask why I have withheld this knowledge for so many years. I have not withheld it. I tried in vain to give it from 1926, when I first published charts of the complete periodic table herewith attached, up to the beginning of World War II, when I tried to organize a laboratory group to save England from its unnecessary bombardment. I also accepted and held the presidency of the Society of Arts and Sciences in New York for 7 years for the sole purpose of giving to the world this new cosmogony based upon a two-way, continuous, balanced universe to replace the one-way, discontinuous, unbalanced universe which is presumably expanding to a heat death. During this period, I lectured upon the misconceived idea that hydrogen is the basic number one atom of the periodic table. I explained that there are 21 other elements which precede it, and that hydrogen itself is not a single element, but a whole complex octave. I also explained the impossibility of there being any element without an inert gas as its source. At that time, I distributed my periodic charts to approximately 800 scientists and universities. Further than inciting research which yielded so-called isotopes of hydrogen and heavy water, nothing came of my effort, nor did I receive the credit due me. Incidentally, those so-called isotopes are not isotopes, but full-toned elements of an orderly octave group series. Isotopes do not occur in nature until they reach the octave following the silicon octave. The reasons for this are fully explained in our study course. I wrote 2 books, gave many lectures, and set up a demonstration laboratory in a university to prove that the elements are not different substances, but are differently conditioned pressures of motion, and that the structure of the atom is based upon the gyroscopic principle. As one after another of my discoveries appeared under other names, I acted on the advice of a friendly science editor to withhold any more of my new cosmogony until it was fully completed in words and diagrams and again copyrighted. It has taken many years to so complete it that it is invulnerable to attack. But this has now been done, and this present treatise is as complete in brief as the whole cosmogony is complete in detail. So in other words, this book here is a Cliff's Notes version of the understandings with explanations that he has produced. I do not look for immediate acceptance of this revolutionary new knowledge. I do hope and expect, however, that the seed of it will grow within the consciousness of science, and as I am nearing 82 years of age, I feel it incumbent to announce the fact to science through this open letter and treatise that the Russell cosmogony, which my gifted wife Lao and I have together written into a year's study course of 935 incontradictable pages and 182 diagrams, is now complete. This course is now being studied all over the world, and through our students as seed, this new knowledge will ultimately transform the world. It is with deep desire that a higher civilization shall arise, that I send forth this message to mankind. The day is here when science and religion must marry, or through ignorance of God's universal laws, man will perish from the earth. I would like to say man will destroy himself. There's a difference between perishing and destroying yourself. Hoping that the world of science will recognize that this treatise has within it the answer to basic cause for which it has been so long and tirelessly searching, I am sincerely yours, Walter Russell. February 13th, 1953.